back to the new norm. I'm Dr. Lou Graham, and this program is brought to you by Midway Dental and Catapult Education. I'm going to go back to the year, let's go 2005. About 15 years ago, I pick up a book, and it's called $1 Million Dentistry. Now, you can immediately think I'm a capitalist, I'm just going for money. Not so the case. So I read this book by an author named Gary Kadi. Now, I'd already met Gary. I'd already gone to a few courses on Gary, but my whole thing is when you read a book, you can underline it, do all the cool things and go back and read it and then bring it to your team and kind of work together. Well, if I had to say there was one book that has formulated how my practice runs, especially targeting hygiene, and I will go back to $1 Million Hygiene, and how my hygienist encompasses the total role of diagnostics, which become even more evident in this COVID era. This was a groundbreaking book. Now we're 7 books later. Gary he's authored now 7 books, and he has now been running NextLevel as the CEO since 1996. This is going to be a very fast-paced interview, and we're going to do a number of them because we're never going to get it all in. And I'm going to start off, Gary and I have definitely, I think, a close enough relationship with. Gary understands both crisis management overall and personal crisis management. So first off, Gary, welcome this morning on a Saturday morning. Let's talk about how your day started today, if you don't mind.
Oh, thank you so much, Lou, for the privilege of being here, and thanks to Midway as well. This morning, I celebrated my 12th year of sobriety with the group that I work with. And, if you would have told me 12 years ago that when my wife came to me and my son was diagnosed with autism, and my wife came to me and said, look, we need to get this guy healthy. And, my nickname's Party Fresh, Lou. So, she said, listen, Mr. Party Fresh, you don't have to quit drinking, but you can't stay here. So 12 years ago, I was living in denial under a rock, looking at a mountain to climb of never drinking alcohol again after I drank it every day. And here I am 12 years later. And I've used all of the things that I've learned in my alcoholism in the implementation in a dental practice. So creating happy teams that implement sustainable results is the asset that I've learned how to do. And that's really what we need right now or any time in a crisis.
Wow. So as we talk crisis, tell us about let's roll into your new book about bouncing back. Why don't we start into that and talk about the crisis at hand, and let's go through the steps if that's okay with you.
You bet. One of the things that I was on CNN after 9/11. So I had practices downtown Manhattan and walked them through 9/11. These were practices that had people in them that lost spouses, wow. People in them that had to close down in Lower Manhattan for almost 6 months. And like, how did they deal with the solvency of their business? And, really getting, as an accidental expert, Lou, I was thrown into it. And, back in 01, right. Back in 01, I had to build the plane while I was flying it, if you will, right?
Right.
And then, I had to do it in 2008 again after the Great Recession and do it on a nationwide basis, practices in Canada and 44 states in the U.S. And how do you maneuver that, right? So,
right.
But here's the thing, Lou. Didn't want to write this book about a pandemic because I think people are going to get amnesia once we get back to work about this pandemic. Like, they're going to want to forget the pain about it. So I didn't write it $1 Million Dentistry, right? $1 Million Dentistry, the great pandemic. I didn't want to do that, Lou, right? So
right.
And what I realized is the same things that I've helped over 6,000 practices maneuver through. The same principles apply, but dentists are not trained to maneuver through crisis. They can work through a crisis in the 2x2 mouth office that they work in, because when something goes wrong in the mouth, they can work through that. They're confident there. But when something goes wrong in their family, in their business, or their community, or their industry, or in this case, the globe, they're not trained to do that. And so that's why I call it the 8th edition. $1 Million Dentistry, bounce back from anything. And there's a dirty dozen here of 12 situations and I call them situations because they're temporary if you choose them to be, and you get through them fast and you get better on the backside. 12 things that dentists go through, and I've identified those 12.
So well, let's get right to it then. Let's do the countdown. Well, however you want to start, from the top or the bottom. Let's go through these 12.
Sounds good. One that happens over, for some reason there's 50% divorce in the US, but it seems like 75% of my dentists had to go through a big divorce where their cash flow got hammered. And, excuse me. And, that's a big one that's common to a lot, is a big divorce. Now, I would say that that's one of the most common. Second is when, let's call him Charlie Chairside, as you know, $1 Million Dentistry. There's Larry Laser Guy, which is the founding doctor, and then a fictional character called Charlie Chairside, the associate. He comes in, takes 6 of the team members of the 10, and takes half the practice with him and violates his non-compete and is opened up down the street. I've seen that happen over and over again.
Right.
The next one is key team members leaving, Lou. Key team members, because most doctors have a personality-driven practice. Now, here's what I think about. I often get a doctor and he goes, when she leaves, when Zell leaves, I leave, because they have no clue how to run the business, because they're running it on a people-centered practice. I call it personality-centered practice versus a system structured business model that you can plug and play anybody, and you don't have golden handcuffs. If somebody leaves, you can still run the business. Local economy sours, obvious there, circumstantially there. Health issues keep the doctor out for 4 to 6 months. I had Jeff Lowe in Hayes, Kansas, made a left turn on his ATV and face planted into the grill of a Jeep, both hands shot. You got that one. Family issues, kids issues, suicide, drugs. We have, there's a big deal in dentistry. That's why we donate to the suicide prevention group. We have a leader, Sally, who brings this work on how to identify suicide, drug issues. Obviously, that's a big deal for me. Tax problems is another one. Competition from corporate dentistry, competition from smarter dentists. That's why I love Midway, because it's such an innovative group. And what happens is, because they're on the chassis of value creation, Henry Schein, some of the others they're on a chassis of, selling things versus, Midway's built on a chassis of value creation, and then they happen to sell equipment and merchandise. And, so that's happening in dental practices, built on a chassis of complete health dentistry, all the new stuff, right? And, if you don't have that and you try to transform that, you really got some work to do, because that practice is going to, take market share.
Right.
A thing in my second book, Lou, called Low Deserve Level. My second book I wrote called Raise Your Healthy Deserve Level. And here's what I've learned. That dentists, unlike medical doctors, they're both doctors, but medical doctors come usually from a wealthy background and they stay in that field and they stay wealthy. Dentists, they're usually the first generation of professional, and they came from very humble beginnings like I did, and this is how I learned this. In life and in practice, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you think you deserve, nothing more and nothing less. So if I show you the capacity that you can double your practice, a dentist's first reactions, more than 60% of the time, they're saying to themselves, well, I don't really deserve this. I'm just going to keep struggling. Struggling is a payoff. And once they get unhooked here, accounts receivable, giving away free dentistry, having an A team versus a C team, all these things explode and open up. And then, a lot of doctors are just exhausted. They're sitting here, Lou, and they're sitting here and they're going, I don't want to climb this mountain. I don't want to invest. I'm just going to get out of this thing, But there's some that are leaving so much on the table because they have an unfulfilled dream, and they're going to give away, half of their retirement if they sell too fast. It's not that difficult if you know what to do. And then the last one is I have it all handled. The minute I got humbled with alcoholism, I was an arrogant guy. And I thought I had to have all the answers for people. That's what people paid me for. And what I realized is I do the very best that I can. I don't have all the answers. I do the best I can. And the minute I say I have it all handled, I'm done. And so when I say to myself, when I learn more, I learn how much I don't know. And if I stay in that zone, Lou, I can keep growing. This is a blind spot for a lot of dentists. That's the 12.
You know, it's interesting because as I listen to the 12, as anybody's going to listen to the 12, there is no way anybody has not gone through multiple crises in their lifetime unless they're 12 years old, if you ask me. I mean, it's crazy, but you hit this really, really right on. And, you know, I got to touch on this. You know, when I'm teaching, you can see what I call the early adapters. Those are the guys like you just talked about. They want to just keep learning. You know, I could be like at an AGD master course, and those guys just really want to learn and take it and go. And then you could be giving a course openly, and people are just coming for the CE credits. And I think those are the people you just talked about. They've just come from wherever, they're at a point wherever, and they're just not going to take the opportunity to grow where they can grow. Am I kind of catching that right?
Yeah, well, you know, I want to identify the 3 types of dentists. And this isn't a judgment. This is just a starting point.
Yeah.
See, there's three types of dentists, and I like boating. I like water. You know, that's why I'm in the desert, as you can tell. That's why I love it.
Right.
I actually do like the beach first. There's navigators. They're like, all right, chart the course. I want to have that destination. That is only 5% of dentists, because I do this course that's a one month course, 3 sessions with me on Zoom. You know, I do this recovery blueprint, Lou, and the first thing I ask them is what do they want, and only 10% can give me the specifics, the SMART goals of specific, measurable, accountable, realistic, and time-driven. They can't give that to me. And when I do that and get in there, Lou, and help them see that if you don't know where your destination is, the game we're going to play is just throwing a bunch of systems and processes and effort at things, and we don't know if we're going to land. This is why only 4% of dentists retire financially free, because they don't have their destination and reverse engineer from that, which we're going to talk about in later sessions.
Right.
Navigators, number 1, Lou.
Right. Navigators, number 1. Go to number 2.
Wave runners. No, not necessarily knowing where the destination is, but like doing the next right thing, but like not focused in on like where we land in this wave runner. Riding the waves, whatever's hot, you know, listen to you on stage, listen to somebody in dental economics, and just being, you know, this profound poet said this amazing, when you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. That's why people are stressed. That's why they have so much to do. That's why they're so busy. We clear away all that clutter the minute you know where you want to land. And you know who that was, Lou? This profound poet?
Who?
Katy Perry. Katy Perry in her song. In floating around like a plastic bag, that visual. Cut that out the minute. I'm telling you, in the first 30 minutes when I work with a doctor, their shoulders come down, their head just picks up, they see hope for the possibility, and they eliminate the fear, stress, and anxiety they live in. The last one, you ready? These are the only people I don't work with. I give them a chance because my wife didn't give up on me. So everybody gets a chance with me. But if I give you 10, you're drowning. And I throw out one of those circular red things that they throw out on cruise ships that hopefully nobody's going to go on in a while. They jump in and they grab that little red thing, and you know what they're doing? I'm trying to pull them up. They're pulling me in with them and telling me all this, you know, fear and they're living it. I listen compassionately to people. Don't misunderstand me, Lou. But what I do is I go, this is my question to them. I heard you for about 4 hours now. Would you like to fix that? If you do, I got the solution. Because are you focused in on the problem and mired in it and staying there, or are you looking for a solution? If I got into alcoholism and I kept saying, woe is me, pour me another drink, that's how I numbed myself because I didn't want to deal with the BS that was going on around me. And I was a professional drowner, so I have a lot of compassion for the professional drowners, but I'm going to zing you, I'm going to interrupt you, and then we're going to go, do you want to get it solved? If so, we got it for you. And I'll tell you, I can't tell you how many professional drowners became navigators.
You know, that's great. And so this is what I'm going to do. I think our whole goal is to move those drowners up to the next level, if you ask me. I mean, even just to get them to wave runners and then to get to navigators, I'm all over it. I mean, we are where we are and we can all be in different paths during our lives, but the idea is obviously to get to navigation. I agree. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna end episode 1. I'm gonna bring you back for episode 2. Gary, don't go far. We're gonna hit episode 2 in just a few minutes. Thanks so much. So let me be clear. We wanna hear from you. We wanna hear your questions. So what we want you to do is we want you to go to education@midwaydental.com. Shoot us your questions. We'll go right to the experts. I know I'm not the expert, so let's go ask the experts what we should be doing as our next step next week, the week after, and thereafter. I look forward to hearing from you.